Yeah, but it's extremely hard to see other people as human, even when they're your enemies. Like even if it's not Marcus, even if it's a guy who really is sexist, even that guy is a human and he has reasons for thinking the way that he does. And nobody deserves death threats and nobody deserves to be told kill themselves and like all these other things that I have seen people who are supposedly on my side say, and like I've seen people on Gamergazi say ableist things, and just like I mean nobody means anything by it, but it's not great. And like even though you're on the right side, we all have a lot of problems with like internalized sexism and like we all need to think about racism more. Like even people in social justice communities have to think about all of that all the time, and ableism and all of that, because like even the people who are really powerful within social justice communities like sometimes have internalized sexism issues or what have you. You know what I mean? And like we are not immune to those problems, and that doesn't necessarily mean that like, you know, we deserve to be harassed for that, but it makes things more complicated, I think, because I don't know. I feel like I'm constantly having to explain this to people, and like even Gamergate people sometimes will point it out to me and be like, well, haven't you noticed that like even your own social justice community is really sexist and blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you don't really understand what you're saying, Gamergate person, but I have noticed that. I have noticed that a lot of the guys who are in power in journalism and who make more than I do oftentimes are really sexist too. And like sometimes they don't intend to be, but like, yeah, actually I have noticed and that's a problem. And although it's like a joke to Gamergate, of course, but like, I think it's just really important to think about what we're saying to each other and like think about whether we are falling into those traps, even as allies, like whether we're harassing people also and like saying inappropriate stuff.
I think about a quote a lot from Catherine Cross that's basically, you know, justice hotly delivered, you know, is not justice. And I think sometimes I'm deeply uncomfortable with the idea of feminism ultimately being, you know, like entertainment for people. And I'm deeply uncomfortable with, I gotta just be straight with you, Maddie. I am absolutely done with outrage culture and calling people out. Like I made a public commitment on my Twitter a while back that I was going to stop calling out people publicly. I was going to try to call them in first. And I have to tell you, what's been frustrating for me is I've done that 3 times now. One was with someone in the Mac community where I called them out, I called them in about a really sexist joke they were making about Hillary Clinton in her bodily functions, and the guy was a complete ass to me. And the second thing was also someone reasonably powerful in game development, and I called them in and tried to talk to them about what they said was problematic, and it didn't go well. In fact, I've been very discouraged by that. But I think we've got to get past. I think we have to get past call-out culture. I don't think it's healthy to just sick people on people ad infinitum. I think it has its place. Like, I think critique of Total Biscuit is beyond fair because that guy is such an egregious example of privilege and hurting people. But I think that that's something we as a community need to use much more judiciously. And I think, like, I think like the ultimate problem with Gamergate is they lack empathy. And something I really try in myself as I talk about this to remember that even the people sending me death threats are people. And I try to think about their point of view and, try to have empathy for that so I don't become the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's something that I try to think about personally. And like I struggle with getting really angry about things, obviously, and I try not to take it out on people. But something that I remind myself is to get angry at structures and not individual people. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to just getting really angry at one individual guy who said something sexist, I have to kind of remember the big picture and be like, it's not just that one guy. Like, even if I get that one guy fired and I ruin his life, I don't feel better. And also sexism still exists everywhere else, you know? So like, I think in the moment, people feel like attacking this individual person en masse, which happens a lot, is going to make them feel better, and destroying this person's life is going to make them feel better. It doesn't ever. And it also doesn't actually fix structural oppression. It just doesn't. And the picture is so much bigger than that, like to the point where it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. And I think it's too easy to attack individual people. It's way easier to just ruin one person's life or ruin their day for sure. And that's too easy, I think. It's harder to talk about the big picture issues and to really think about like hiring practices and, you know, whose work we read and what we share and, you know, who's getting promoted and what's everybody's pay rate like. And that big picture stuff is really, really important. And it's more important, I think, than just attacking one individual person.
Absolutely. I have one quick comment, and then I want to go to Georgia for psychoanalysis. You know, I think my comment would be this. And, you know, I don't mean to single out Gamer Ghazi, because I think it's a lot of things. It's Twitter. It's some aspects of the left community. And I even think it's wider games journalism that turns things like, you know, Peter Molyneux into a sporting match. Like, whose side are you on? But, you know, I do want to kind of talk in very direct terms about what I'm looking for from Gamer Ghazi, you know, as a mod. And again, this is a perspective I personally have felt very frustrated trying to communicate to the moderators there. What I need from them is a sense that people can get hurt from the topics they choose to allow there. What I need from them is more awareness that there's a wider thing going on here than just Gamer Ghazi. And, you know, I would like to see more humility in the way that, you know, people are banned in particular. I think often there's a lack of humility in that. And I would like to see us really clarify what the mission objective is there. You know, is the role of Gamer Ghazi to be another Reddit forum with a lot of traffic and a lot of members there that is enjoyable for everyone to have a discussion? I hope not, because that's not something I feel comfortable in participating in. You know, on my Twitter every single day, I have to make editorial calls in what I promote, what I say, how I say it. And there are topics every single day that I say, oh my God, I am not going to talk about that because that's going to hurt people. And what I see Gamer Ghazi consistently doing is choosing to talk about it. And I would like us to, if we are going to kind of be the center of this discussion, I'd like us to have more of an adult discussion. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Like what you heard? Listen to the full episode at relay.fm/isometric or search for Isometric in iTunes.